Hey, what are you reading? Journal Club on EdPop.
Hey everybody, Seamus here. Today we're taking a look at John Hattie's book, Visable Learning, a synthesis of over 800 meta-analyses relating to achievement. That's the first edition that was published in 2008. Hattie has studied a bunch of studies to figure out something he calls effect size, or how much a particular factor can affect student achievement. The list of factors is long, like over 200 factors long, and includes things like prior ability of students, homework, socioeconomic status, depression, direct instruction, use of technology, practice testing, etc., etc., etc. Now, Hattie has had a few updates to his effect size list since it was first published in 2008, so you can check out an updated list on our website, educationpop.org, and there are indeed some big surprises on the lists. I thought it would be fun to choose a handful of factors and bring them to a former student of mine, Rose Martin.
You were a kind of a former teacher, kind of just a teacher that I knew of in high school?
Okay, Rose was technically in my class for about a week, and she was moved out, but we'll count it because I saw her around a lot and she felt like she was one of my students. Rose is now in school for teaching and currently works in the education field.
Teaching early childhood education at an early childhood center.
21 factors were chosen and printed on little strips of paper. Rose has no prior experience with Hattie's research and is being asked to put them in order from most effective to least effective.
Okay. Is there a right or wrong answer?
Yes, there is a correct order here that we're looking for. Although it's only 21 factors out of more than 200 that John Hattie has, there is a correct order we are looking for today in this exercise.
Good. So most important to least important, in my opinion?
Not important, most effective to least effective. This is effect size.
Socioeconomic status, rehearsal and memorization, mastery learning, video review of lessons, problem-based learning, self-reported grades. I haven't even heard of some of these before. Jigsaw Method. What's that?
Jigsaw Method, organizing students into groups and splitting up a task. Each group member is responsible for a section or piece of the overall task, hence jigsaw. Students depend on fellow group members to create a whole.
So are these strategies that are used in just high school or K through 12?
Hattie's factors could be used in all levels of education, like K through 12, and we are exploring the overall effect size. However, Hattie's publishings do offer some disaggregated data in case you're kind of curious about, does this work well in elementary schools versus high schools?
First, I would pick out most effective, just based on the term that I recognize, because some of these I don't totally know about and I haven't experienced them, so I couldn't say from my own experience. So go define integrated curricula programs.
Integrated curricula programs. Simply put, planning instruction to create connections between school subjects, and ideally done with the same instructor or instructors. Think dancing and gym to explore math concepts, using Spanish and biology to better understand social studies of Costa Rica, or using techniques in art class to explore the mathematics of the Renaissance.
That seems cool. And then problem-based learning.
Problem-based learning is seen in 4 phases. 1, identify a problem. Ideally, it's a real-world problem. Number 2, students work together to create a plan. Number 3, do the plan or test something out. Lastly, number 4, reflect and evaluation. The big difference between problem-based learning and project-based learning is basically a product, like a physical product. In problem-based learning, it isn't really necessary to accomplish the goal of that style of learning.
Oh, cool. Prior ability just means a student's learning abilities.
Prior ability is just that, not to be confused with prior achievement. Mr. Voss, are you listening? A student could have high ability, but choose to not perform for a test and therefore has low achievement.
These are a lot of terms.
All right, let's take a step back. Hattie's research quantifies each factor on the list. Any factor above a 0.4 represents 1 year's worth of growth in students. Anything with a negative number actually represents backslide for student achievement.
It's hard because some of these are more like curriculum based, and some of them are more like in the general scheme of things behind, like outside of school.
Yes.
Like parental involvement and depression are very much like things that the children deal with outside of school. So ideally you would want something that does contribute to 1 year's worth of growth.
Or more.
What are self-reported grades?
Self-reported grades. Hattie has said that he might want to rename this category as student expectations. See, students set a goal for their achievement, and the teacher encourages them to reach or exceed that goal.
And then collective teacher efficacy, what's that?
Collective teacher efficacy. This is when teachers all believe in students. Like all of the teachers are in it to win it because they really believe the students can do it.
Mastery learning.
Mastery learning. Students have to show evidence of having achieved a certain level of proficiency before going on to the next content. It's sort of a system of you did it, keep going, or you didn't, try again.
Socioeconomic status is hard because it just depends on your motivation as a person. They could have everything in the world, but they have the worst behavioral problems ever. Some of them go with each other, though, too. Like your style of learning can go with your class size, almost. It makes you question everything.
What are you struggling with right now?
The ones that kind of can go together. So,
Like what?
like your prior ability would go with your style of learning almost, and would also go with it would correlate with depression, whether you have depression or not, affects your prior ability and affects your style of learning. So that's really important because you have to determine that first. And then depression can also be caused by parental involvement, socioeconomic status. So I guess you just have to think of them singularly.
Okay, Rose is going to take some time to figure out her order before I reveal the actual arrangement and the effect size numbers. Go for it, Rose.
If you get the right answer, you get a basket full of Olive Garden bread.
Ew. Olive Garden sounds really
Rewarding.
good. Why'd you have to do that?
What's your favorite thing to eat at Olive Garden?
Oh, their portobello mushroom ravioli. Your stomach will not thank you an hour later.
Because it's that good.
There's like an addictive something in their salad dressing too, I swear to God. Like, nothing tastes the same. I had a teacher who did Jeopardy games at the end of each study. The next day on the test, I would remember visually, oh my God, as opposed to I could never just sit at home and look at a book, remember all of those things I wrote. It totally depends on your style of learning. I have some friends who I have to physically be doing something like flashcards. Where I work, that's all we do. And that's why you can be compared to this early childhood center and this one, because they don't do that. And you pay more to get that. An individual style things that came last on my stress list when I was in It's school. Like your mom sending you to your room because you did something bad. Well, your room has a bed, which is comfy, and or there's in-school suspension, which sucks because you have to sit there and literally do nothing all day, but that doesn't teach you that you did something wrong. Helpful and effective, because that's like the majority of what you're doing in school is direct instruction. It's like a lecture in college or something. Not many high school teachers do that, but I know a lot of like college professors do. If you're a good teacher, I think that would be helpful. Practice tests are amazing. Go over it when you're done. Like if they tell you what you got right and wrong, students' back can be beneficial to them.
Okay, again, Hattie has like over 200 factors on his official list here, and we're taking a look at just kind of 21 sort of notable things on the list. So, starting at the top, the most effective or the biggest effect size, according to John Hattie's meta-research, is collective teacher efficacy with an effect size of 1.57. Next, with an effect size of 1.33 is self-reported grades. At an effect size of 1.20 is Jigsaw Method. With an effect size of 0.93, we have prior ability. Coming in at 0.88, we have video review of lessons. At 0.73, we have rehearsal and memorization. This is one that Rose had an issue with. It's 0.60. We have direct instruction. A little bit of a surprise from Rose. She thought it would maybe a little bit lower on the list. It's actually fairly effective. This is something that's kind of the bane of many administrators because they often preach or they're told that direct instruction's bad and it's sort of demonized, but it's got an effect size greater than 0.40 at 0.60, so it's still a fairly effective method to use in the classroom. At 0.57, Rose was thrown off by mastery learning. She thought it would be lower on the list, but like many people, she's not familiar with it, so she doesn't quite know what to do with it. At 0.54 is practice testing. Seems to make sense. Tied at 0.52 is both teacher-student relationships and socioeconomic status. At 0.50 is parental involvement. Rose had that one super high on her list. She had it at number 2, and it's actually kind of in the middle of our pack here. At 0.47, just squeaking in there as effective enough, is integrated curricula programs. Now we get below 1 year's worth of growth. At 0.37, we have music programs. Much to the chagrin of many people who are humans, the meta-research shows that music programs are maybe not as effective as some arts advocates would like to believe. I know, it hurts me to even say that. At 0.31, Rose had this one much higher on her list, matching style of learning. This goes against the grain and sort of challenges the idea that everyone has different learning styles, and it sort of reinforces the idea that, no, people can learn in different ways. It actually is not crazy effective to concentrate kids into categories and say, you learn in this way, you learn in that way. The dreaded homework comes in at 0.29, not much of a showing. Homework is shown to not be super duper effective. Many people like to brag that their schools have problem-based learning, but it shows here on Hattie's list that it only comes in with an effect size of 0.26. And now one that I'm sure I'm going to receive a lot of angry letters for even talking about, but reducing class size is shown to only have an effect size of 0.21. Yet Rose seems to be big on reducing class size could be really effective. So she had it high on her list. It was a big surprise. It's down there. Next, now we're in the negative. This is the backslide. This is where the students actually show negative movement, and that would be suspending or expelling students at negative 0.21. Rose was not a fan of where retention wound up being at negative 0.32. She thinks that maybe it has a higher impact for kids of a younger age, and if we disaggregated the data, that might indeed be correct, but it's shown to have a negative effect on students and actually cause backslide. And the last one on our list, the last one that we chose, at an effect size of negative 0.36. So this is almost like brings the students back an entire year. It's depression, folks. Something that seems like it's oftentimes beyond our control, but it really can take a toll on a student. Depression is a real thing. Depression is a real issue. Well, Rose, that was certainly fun having you join us today. What are some of your takeaways after seeing some of the Hattie's effect size list?
Whether or not a teacher is rooting for you and believes in you is really, really, really important all the time, I think. But I'm really shocked about the style of learning. Because picture your group of students, you could almost split them in half by like the high energy, more behavioral issues type of kids, more overstimulated kids, from the calmer, like easily adaptable children. You can almost cut them in half usually. You always have a group that would respond so much differently, but you try to teach to the masses, like appeal to all of them. I was not shocked that suspension was a negative impact, because why would it be beneficial whatsoever? That's just stupid. It's like dress code. It's one of those things that's like completely, it makes no sense that it's a rule.
Well, thank you, Rose, for participating in our game and joining us on Journal Club today.
Thanks for having me.
That will do it for Journal Club. I've got some more reading to do, so I will see you next time.